Welcome to On the Air with CJWW. Today, we are talking with Jay Stark, a philanthropic wealth advisor and partner of Sutton Wealth Planning, a branch of Asante Wealth Management. Now, Jay has been advising individuals, families, and business owners on how to significantly reduce their income and estate taxes for more than 20 years. Jay's here to educate and inspire us about planned giving and the impact we can have by adding charities to our wills. So welcome, Jay. You have a MFAP philanthropy designation. You got to tell me what that means.
It's nice to be here. It means that I was locked in my basement because of a global pandemic, and I actually did something productive. So it's a designation. It gives me maybe a few more tools to add to the wisdom that I've gained over the years working with lots of different families. It's a specialized designation, and with the pandemic, the time was right to dive into it.
Wow. And I have to commend you for being productive during the time. Not all of us can say the same.
It was one small area of productivity for sure, yeah, to keep my wife and daughters from leaving the house.
I understand you're going to be putting that to good use. You're going to be speaking about philanthropy at the CAGP National Conference in March. Tell me about that. I wasn't familiar with this at all.
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of education, and it's an event that they have annually, and you just get to go and glean wisdom from the best of the best. And so that's what the conference is all about this year. Hopefully it can happen. It's in Halifax, and I've never been to Halifax. So I'm going to go and network with some seasoned professionals from coast to coast, and they asked me to present, so I had to jump at that opportunity.
Tell me about the presentation you'll be making.
Yeah, we're going to talk a bit about why people are generous, the benefits of being generous, and how you can build it into your legacy, really, either with a will or just with the actions that you take day to day.
That's what we're going to talk about next here with Jay Stark, a philanthropic wealth advisor and partner of Sutton Wealth Planning, on the air with CJWW. So tell me a bit more about the power of a will and why you are on this mission.
It's a great question. You know, I get to work with very successful people, but it's not just about the success. It's more about what you do with your success. And there comes a time when you just start to think about your legacy, and maybe legacy sounds like something too grand or ambitious. But for me, I think it's simple. It's just the way we can leave a legacy through doing our part in our piece of the world. It can really be that simple. I love the story of Alfred Nobel. He's long gone, but his legacy continues. And he actually woke up one day and read his own obituary in the newspaper. And it turns out his brother had passed away, but he got to read what the community thought of him, and it wasn't very nice. They said he had invented dynamite, and it was used to kill more people than anything else. He could kill people faster than ever before. And so he reflected on that, and that's not how he wanted to be remembered. So he wrote his own will, and he created the gifts that celebrate the best in humanity. So I don't know that I'm ever going to see my obituary on the cover. I hope I never see my obituary, but I probably won't see it on the cover of the newspaper. But I want to be intentional about my own legacy.
Certainly, and I wasn't aware of that story with Alfred Nobel. So that's the Nobel Prize guy.
That's right. Yeah.
And it almost sounds like something out of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, where Scrooge gets an opportunity to see the world after he's gone, and he wasn't very well loved either, and that encourages him to change his ways.
Yeah, we're just through that season where you get to reflect on these things.
That's right.
And for everyday people, you can have a big impact while you're alive in the activities that you participate in, but also when you pass away. If you have a will, a lot of Canadians don't have wills. We like to put off dying as long as possible, but it certainly is an important thing to have in place. They kind of get outdated, just like salad dressing has a best before date. Most wills do as well, and just encourage people to be reflective of their wishes and make sure they're up to date with their will.
On the air with CJWW, chatting with Jay Stark, a partner of Sutton Wealth Planning. Let's talk about the tax implications, because that's a big reason why people should jump on creating a will.
Yeah, well, I think there's a myth that if you leave a gift to a charity in your will, it's taking money away from your kids. But it's actually that advanced planning actually takes money that would have otherwise gone to the government in the form of taxes and gives it to charity. And so there's a lot of, it takes advanced planning, but there's a lot of ideas out there that you can implement that shift some of the taxes that you might otherwise pay in your estate. We all want to pay our fair share, but perhaps not a penny more. So some advanced planning in the will itself can drastically shift where the tax dollars go.
Certainly worth having that discussion, 100%. So how can we get involved and take action on this?
Great question. Well, there's a website, willpower.ca, and it's got lots of calculators and resources and some very inspiring stories that you can read, and you can get connected with professionals, myself included. But there's lawyers and there's just lots of good resources on that website, and they're trying to inspire people to consider giving gifts to charity in their will. I have a letter from my grandma that she gave me a small gift and wrote me a letter. And the financial gift was nice. She told me to save for my future, but it was the letter that actually inspired my interest in this work. And so the legacy is multifaceted. So I encourage people to have conversations with their family about their wishes. I wrote a special report about the mistakes Canadians make when giving to charity, and I'd be happy to share that. You can find that on our website. We have a newsletter that shares lots of inspirational stories. I always tell people, write down what's really important to you, share it with your family. But yeah, update your will. Or if you don't have one, the government has one for you, and if you actually knew what would happen, you'd run out right away and get your will done.
I think now, obviously, we don't want to spread horror stories here, but what can happen if someone passes away without a legal will made up?
Well, it certainly slows your estate down, and then the government has what's called the Intestate Act, and it outlines what will happen. And it probably doesn't line up with what you'd want to happen. And then you have to apply for someone on your behalf has to apply to administer your estate. And so it just really slows things down and doesn't allow for your wishes to come true. My grandma's will didn't include any charitable giving, but she was a very generous person her whole life. So I like having these conversations with people just to inspire them to not, it's not always about giving to charity, but just to have these conversations with your family and make sure everything's up to date.
And that's a very good point. To spread the word, to share with others. I know it's something that might initially seem taboo, but we should normalize this. It is inevitable. We all have limited time in this world, and why shouldn't we discuss our plans and strategies with our loved ones and close friends?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think the world is a big place, but your legacy is created right where you're standing.
And we have control over that legacy too.
100%.
All right, willpower.ca. I love that, by the way. Great play on words there. Willpower.ca for more information on the power of a will. We're chatting with Jay Stark, a partner of Sutton Wealth Planning and a philanthropic wealth advisor. One of the terms that we've used today, strategic philanthropy. I want to explore that a little bit more.
Well, lots of big fancy words. They're not meant to intimidate anybody, but to just be forward thinking. I think most of us want to avoid the subject of death as much as possible. I have a really corny joke. I say, what do you call a gift in a will? A dead giveaway.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a corny one.
Well done.
But I do agree. Like, if we can just normalize this conversation and then put the energy into being strategic. So yeah, we can have impact on our family, and it enables a real big, meaningful impact on the causes that we care about.
Having a will, very important, as you said, to leave a legacy for our loved ones. But there's many of us have one or two or even several causes or charities that are very dear to us. Is it a simple process to pick specific charities that will receive a gift in our passing?
Yeah, it can be simple. I think the conversation is very important. I would talk to your lawyer, talk to your advisor, see if the gift makes the most sense in your estate, if perhaps it would make better sense from a tax perspective to make it before you pass away. One of the things I like about supporting the charities while I'm alive is I get to see what they do with the money, and then I have confidence that if I'm going to leave them something in my will, that it's being well managed and that they're having an impact with it.
That's a very good point. One thing that I was surprised in doing a little research on this is that how few Canadians have a will.
Yeah, 1 in 2 Canadians have a will. So
That's not very many.
That's not very many. So between you and I, one of us has a will and the other doesn't. So
Well, I'm going to put my hand up and say that I do.
Okay.
It must be you, Jay.
well done. I'll get on mine right away. Yeah, that's So the statistics aren't great, but it's because nobody likes to talk about this. So I appreciate you having me on to just try to normalize the conversation. I think it can go a long way in getting us to be more clear on what we want in our will and knowing what will happen when we pass away. I think people would be more intentional about perhaps adding some generosity to the causes they care about.
On the air with CJWW, our special guest, Jay Stark, philanthropic wealth advisor, partner of Sutton Wealth Planning, which is a branch of Asante Wealth Management. Something else you brought up, Jay, was that it's important to update your will. And now I just started thinking, okay, when I wrote my will, we were pregnant, and now we have 2 kids. It might be worth a revisit.
Yeah, I don't know that you need to rewrite your will, but I love that term, revisit. Just take a look, see if there's anything that's changed. Do all the people that you name in the will, are they all still alive? Does it still resonate with your intentions? I have many conversations with people, and they describe what's in their will, and then I ask for a copy of it. And to everyone's surprise, it doesn't always align. We start to forget some of the details. And wills are, I don't know, they're not written in normal English. They're written in hard to understand English.
Legalese.
Legalese, yeah. So sometimes we have to translate that to actually make sense and make sure it aligns with what our wishes are. So great that you had a will in anticipation of the little ones. And now that you have them, maybe it would be a good thing to just review and make sure it still resonates with what you would want to happen.
So for anyone listening right now who's thinking, I don't have a will, maybe I should get on this, what would you recommend they do next?
Willpower.ca. It's gonna give you some thoughts. It's got lots of resources, and it's gonna point you to some professionals in our community that will be able to help.
Jay, I'd be interested to hear about your history. You've been working to save your clients significant money on their income and estate taxes for more than 20 years, but what led you to your calling?
It's a great question. I have 2 daughters myself, and when they were little, we were going to try for a little boy, but it was a bit of a risk. So we decided to sponsor a little boy, and we found a boy in Nicaragua. And we had the good fortune of going to Nicaragua in 2013 to meet him. And I got to meet him, and I saw the power of a letter. So a letter my grandma wrote me had a big impact on me, and the letters I wrote this little boy had a big impact on him. And I also got to see a lot of poverty. And I got reflecting on what I did for a living, and I thought, I think I can have a bigger impact if I help people impact the causes that are important to them. So we get a little bit fixated on how much tax we're paying and how much we're saving and all those things, but really dive a bit deeper into what's really important. Why are you doing the things that you're doing, and how do we make sure our lives have mattered, have stood for something. So a bit of a shift in my career a few years ago, and now I get to go to Halifax and try some lobster and share some ideas with professionals from coast to coast.
Well, and that just goes to show, too, that people change over the years. We're talking about the importance of revisiting your will, and I bet you made some changes since that trip.
Absolutely, yep.
So willpower.ca is a fantastic resource to start from, and Jay, your information is available from that website as well.
Correct.
Yeah, you can find Jay Stark. He is a partner of Sutton Wealth Planning, a branch of Asante Wealth Management. And again, speaking on the importance that if something happens, we don't like to think about it necessarily, but we don't want the government to decide what happens to our belongings and our wealth that we've collected.
Little bit of preparation saves our family from having to repair the damage that can come if we aren't prepared. So prepare over repair would be my mantra to end our conversation.
Sure. Well, before we go, I wanted to ask you if you had any advice on how to bring this up to family members too.
Yeah, it's a tough subject, and it takes a bit of preparation. So, one of the first things I recommend is to actually have a conversation with a professional. I mean, I'm certainly open to these types of conversations and would welcome anyone who's interested in having that conversation to just give some ideas of what's important and how to approach the subject with your family.
You've been listening to On the Air with CJWW. Our guest today has been Jay Stark, a philanthropic wealth advisor and partner of Sutton Wealth Planning, a branch of Asante Wealth Management. Thank you so much for coming, Jay.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For more information on the power of a will, go to, what is that website one more time?
Willpower.ca.
Perfect. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.